Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to How to Get Hired with me, Bill, the company's expert. And today we are talking about anything related to job search. And this is a Q&A, so you should be able to see the chat. Get in the chat, ask me some questions. That's what we're here to do. I see my hair is a little fuzzier than I thought it was. So you know it's going to be a good day. Anyway, okay. Yeah, let's get started. So, serendipity. Hopefully everybody knows what that word means. Serendipity. If you've never heard of this word is going to be very important to describe the entire process of job search. And if I can get a screen going up, there we go. Let's take a look at this word. Just for those among us who have never heard of it, serendipity. Here we go. There's a movie, but that's not what we're talking about. Serendipitous moment happens by accident, usually when you're doing something completely unrelated. So the reason why this is important is because if you are undergoing a job search, this is the way you are going to find a match. This is the way you're going to get hired. Okay? Because out there right now, there exists an employer who's looking for somebody with your skills. And they're looking, but they're not connecting with you. And you're looking for a job, and you're not connecting with them. And the entire job search process is going to be you putting out things that say, hello, I can do this, and I'm looking for a certain thing. And them putting out feelers and saying, look, we're looking for somebody who can do this. And the process of whether you connect or not is very serendipitous. And that's going to describe job search. It also is going to summarize your entire attitude towards job search and how it should happen. Okay. And incidentally, how you handle rejection when you don't get a job and you get that lovely negative feedback that everybody loves, saying we've decided to go with other candidates and all this kind of thing. How do you regard that? Most people, when they're starting out, when they're young or when they're new to job search, they take it very seriously. And it's a real shot to their self-confidence and their self-esteem. And you think, oh my God, I'm no good. Nobody wants me. I'm unemployable. That's the reaction that a lot of people come away with when they're new at this. Once you're a little bit more experienced and you understand what's actually going on, you realize that that is an inappropriate reaction because it just so happened that they weren't really looking for what you had. But other people are, and that's what we're going to talk about. As I said, this is a Q&A, so there's 21 of you people here. Thank you for being here. You guys are all awesome. If you have any questions, get in the chat. I don't have a script. I don't have a plan. I'm just here to answer questions as well as I can. And here we go. The winner of the first post in the chat is Thony Boy Bellamino. By the way, I pronounce everybody's name wrong. I insist upon it. So if I pronounce your name wrong, just get used to it. No slight intended. Thony says, thanks for having these. Very helpful. My pleasure. My pleasure. That's how job search works. It's serendipitous. The idea is that you're going to put out feelers, you're going to pursue opportunities, you're going to either apply for jobs in the post-job market, or you're going to proactively reach out to employers and just put out a message, basically your pitch, saying, hello, I can do this. If ever you're looking for that, let me know. And if they just happen to be looking for somebody with your skills right at the time that you send your message, then it can turn into something wonderful. If not, if they're not looking for somebody right now, right at the time that you happen to be looking for a job, it isn't serendipitous. It just doesn't work out. Okay. And what's the conclusion you should derive from that? Absolutely nothing negative. That's just how it goes. And the moral of the story is the better quality opportunities you pursue and the better quality leads you follow, combined with the amount of leads you follow and opportunities you pursue, is what's going to lead you to success. So there we go. So while we're waiting for the first question to come in, Oh, here we go. The next person is Zohair Merchant. Good morning. Good morning, Zohair. It's great to see you here. Oh, Thony says, you pronounced my name correctly. Did I win? You did win. You win a virtual handshake from me. And that's the kind of thing you can take to the bank. So congratulations. Yes. Mr. Todd, glad to finally join your live stream. Yes, it's great to finally have you here. So excellent. If you have questions, get in the chat, ask your questions, and I will do my best to help. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're all here for, really. That and to have great hair. Yes. As I said, absolutely no script. Zohair, good morning. Good morning. The man, the most value I've seen in any person on this fine platform. Wow, high praise indeed. Thank you very much. I'll try and do my best to live up to that. Caprice says, good morning. Good morning, Caprice. It's great to see you here. Orbit Flyer. What would be a good response to the question, how did you handle interpersonal conflicts? Excellent question. Excellent question. I just want to preface my reaction to that by saying that there were a lot of comments on my YouTube videos in the last day or so where people were talking about how in Western countries or in the last couple years or whatever kind of bias people have, in job interviews, interviewers place more emphasis on your personality and the soft skills that you may have and how well you interact and interoperate with other people. They place more emphasis on that than they do on your technical skills. And that is correct. That is correct. A big part of job interviews are those soft skills. So that question was, how do you deal with interpersonal conflicts? Now, listen, this is a great example of a question that has no right or wrong answer. You just have to have the answer that they happen to agree with and they happen to look for, okay? Now, it's going to vary, but if I was asked this question, okay, to give you a very short answer, to summarize it, the answer is communication. If ever they ask you a question about conflict, okay, in one word, the solution to conflict is going to be communication. So if they ask you a question like you said, how do you handle interpersonal conflicts? Well, I would say something like, well, okay, it depends on the type of conflict, but generally speaking, what I would do is I would try and have some good communication with the other party. Okay, so if it was an individual and maybe it was a coworker and they had a conflict with me over a work-related matter, first of all, what I would try and do is to try and resolve the conflict. That's what I try and do, because especially in a coworker type situation, it's very important that you are able to collaborate well together and communicate well together. Okay, it helps people work on the same team. So my priority is to resolve the conflict, and I would do this by some good quality communication. And what that would involve would be, if it was a coworker that was working in the same office type situation as me, I would do my best to go over and speak to them face to face at an appropriate time when they're not stressed out or they're not under, a time limit or anything like that. And I would do my best to have a good one-to-one private conversation with them. And I would say something to the effect of, I understand that you don't agree with how this particular interaction we had turned out, and I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that that's the case, and I would like to respond it. But I would like to get your take on it. Your opinion on this matter and what we should do about it. And I would listen. I would listen to them, and not only would I listen to what they have to say, I would do my best to communicate non-verbally that I do honestly intend to resolve the conflict, and I do care about their opinions and what they have to say, and am honestly trying to smooth things over. And that's how I found, in a nutshell, the best way to resolve interpersonal conflicts is that approach, some variant of that approach. Now, obviously, I could go on forever, but it's that type of thing. So in one word, the answer to any kind of question on conflict is usually communication. And then if you're going to embellish that, it would be a face-to-face communication. Try and listen, try and get their side of it, try to respond to what they have to say as opposed to just telling them what you think they should hear, and resolve it that way. Thony says, awesome. Carol says, I have no better idea, so let's go. Okay, let's go. Caprice, thank you so much for your time and space. Not a problem, Caprice, especially the space. It's my pleasure. Zohair, so I had an important question. Is it okay to have a resume that is 4 pages if it has value? Zohair, generally, no, okay? I'm not disputing the fact that you may have a lot of content that is valuable, okay? If you have a lot of accomplishments or a lot of experience, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I'm not disputing that at all. However, one factor of resumes is you have to create something that somebody can digest easily. They can like scan it or read it and not have to put an hour or, an unreasonable amount of time into absorbing it, okay? The other thing is that if you have an extremely long resume, which means more than 3 pages, okay, that may call into question your ability to summarize your work, okay? Because you should be able to do a high-level summary of anything, that's a skill, and be able to communicate a lot of detail in a very simple way, okay, by summarizing it, and being able to know intuitively what experiences and accomplishments are the most pertinent to presumably the job you're applying for, okay? I mean, you can always go into more detail later in an interview if they request it, okay? But to apply for the job, just to sort of put your hat in the ring by sending a resume, it should be 2 pages or less, okay? Usually 1.5 pages is usually good, okay? And that's like across many, many jobs. That's from like entry-level jobs all the way up to executive. Just because you're an executive doesn't mean you need a 5-page resume. It doesn't usually work like that. Or if you're an academic and you have tons and tons of publications. I mean, I know less about academia, but even then, you'd be able to summarize instead of listing every little tiny project you ever done in your life. Caprice says, great to see you all. It is. It's great. We got 36 people here, so thank you for being here. Zohair, sure. We definitely are shooting for the full head of hair. Also, may I send you my resume on your thoughts? Boom. Yeah, I don't do resume consulting for individuals. Sorry, Zohair, unfortunately, but there's many people that do, including some pretty high-level people. So if you're interested in that, there's many, HR companies and individuals out there that will be able to help you with that. CCCCC, interested in data analysis, but don't know much. What can I do to increase my chances? Well, where do we start? How much time do you have, CCCC? That reminds me of CC DeVille, the greatest guitarist of all time. Yeah, you can take that from me. The best hair of all time, too. I'm jealous. How many CEOs do you have that have hair like CC DeVille? That's a very important question for today. Okay, so for data analysis, what can you do to increase your chances? Well, listen, as a blanket answer to any question like that about any particular industry, do I work in data analysis specifically? No. But here's what you can do, okay? If you learn the absolute basics of networking, okay, you can sit down with individuals that are experts. They're hiring managers. They're people that are high up in organizations that do data analysis. And you can ask them a ton of questions about what they do, okay? So you can learn all about that business from the inside. You can learn all about what, these people believe, what their beliefs are, meaning where they think the industry is going, what they think are the most important skills an employee should have, what they think the best type of experience is, et cetera, et cetera. You can learn all that. Now, even before you get there, okay, if you just want to sit at home with a computer and an internet connection, okay, what you can do is you can get on LinkedIn, okay, an incredible tool, and you can do a people search in your city or region, and you can enter in, say, data analysis, and you can do a people search. So you're looking for individuals that have the job title like data analysis expert or, anything affiliated with data analysis, and you can look at essentially their resume. Okay, you can see what they have. So if you have a particular job in mind, you have the ambition of being, say, the general manager of a data analysis department in a large multinational corporation. If that's, say, your ambition, you can use LinkedIn to find people that have that role, that are working in that role right now. And you can see what education and experience they have. Okay, so if they all have like the same educational qualification, or they all have the same particular experience, you're asking, what can I do to increase my chances to, say, get that job? Well, if they all have the same thing, that kind of tells you those things are valued in that industry to get into that role. So adding that to your portfolio, to your background, would be probably the thing to do. Okay, so there's two things you can do right there. Get on LinkedIn and just look people up that are in that role. And number two, do some networking and contact people that are in that role and say, could I have half an hour of your time? I'd love to ask you questions about your industry. I'd have to, like, if you don't know the basics of networking, that's something to learn. But everyone who knows it knows that, you contact 100 people, you throw out 100 requests. Could be a template message, and most people won't respond, but some will. You might get 20 people that respond and say, yes, let's talk. So you schedule, you try and set up 20 meetings. You'll probably get about 10. You're talking to 10 people that are in that role that can tell you all about it. Caprice says conflict resolution. And Brooklyn, New York. New York. What do you think of my New York accent? I'm sure it's beautiful. Rob, is that your phone number, Rob? You can post your phone number as part of your name, right? Area code, blah, blah. Good morning, Bill. Was wondering how to identify a good resume review service. I have seen some online that charge $200 to $300. Is that reasonable? It depends what we're talking. For executive type stuff, it actually goes, the average price is actually a lot higher than that. Okay, it's like $1,000, $1,500 is kind of typical. But for sort of lower level stuff, it's conceivable, because you see, the thing is, for a resume, it's actually a lot harder than it looks. And I don't know this by doing it. I know this by having it done to me. What they do is they have to sort of get your entire background. Like, if they're doing it properly, they have to get your entire background, all the stuff that you could put on a resume. And then they sort of edit, like, okay, well, don't say this and don't say that. If you're going for this job, then you should lead with this, stuff like that, right? So it's actually a very labor intensive process, because you have to sort of understand the person's background and skill set and everything in order to be able to write a resume properly. Okay. Now, how much of that they do is going to be, I guess, reflected in the price. Okay. So for $200 to $300, maybe they do, half an hour's worth of that, or an hour's worth of that max, something like that. Okay. Now, how to find the service? I mean, I've done a resume service once. I've hired an executive recruiter to help me with that, like 10 years ago or something, and that was my only experience doing it. So I can't speak really too much from experience, but just look at what they've done, and the way you would do this stuff properly is you go with personal recommendations. But if that's not possible, just take your best guess. And the thing is, if it's your first experience doing this, maybe what I would recommend is don't break the bank, but just take your best shot. Okay, like pick someone that they have a lot of experience and you know. Like I don't know how you would do it without any kind of personal connection, but just take your best shot. But $200 to $300 is probably reasonable for a sub-executive level job. And if it's as I say, it's your first experience, let them do it, and then you hold final decision of what resume you use and the final form it takes. Okay. Now all that. The other thing I want to say about that is that. This is assuming that you've done everything you can do to work on your own resume, okay? Don't hire a resume service just because you're too lazy to do your own resume or you don't feel like putting the time in. No one knows you better than yourself. So, start by doing the best job you possibly can do yourself. You shouldn't need a resume service to get hired. You shouldn't need it. Like, unless you're going for something very exotic or like, you're going after something very competitive, you should be able to do it yourself. Okay, and I've done this before, but let's do it again just for fun, very quickly. Okay, if you want examples of resumes, okay, I use Bing because Bing is good at image search. That's about the only thing it's good for, to be honest. But if you say resume example or examples, okay, and you do an image search. Okay. My computer is slow for some reason. I mean, I know I'm live streaming, but okay, so like you can just go through, here's like tons and tons of examples, right? Now, you're not going to like copy these or anything, but they'll give you ideas. Is everyone like absolutely correct in every way? Probably not. But I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of things you can find. And that should be able to give you like, a frame of reference. If you're doing your own resume, here's some ideas. And when in doubt, just err on the side of being conservative. Okay. So for example, oh no, there's a picture there. Should I put a picture? Is it appropriate for the type of job that I'm trying to do? I don't know. I got doubts. How do you resolve that? What's most conservative? What's most traditional? Not having a picture? Okay, play it safe and have a picture if you're unsure about it. Just as an example. Okay, I mean, I think a picture might not be the end of the world, but like you can do this. A lot of people start off, they just do this much. If you're doing this, that's probably good. If you're way beyond this stage, then okay, maybe a resume service makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense, Rob. Ice Cold Wasim, my buddy there. Hello, Mr. Bill. I have an assessment plus an interview at KPMG tomorrow. Ooh. Do you have any last minute advice to give? Well, I was just talking about being conservative. KPMG would be an example of being conservative. Okay. It's one of the big 4 accounting firms, I believe. So yes. Yeah, it is. I remember that. There used to be like 8 and then there was 5 and now there's 4. So interesting how those respectable traditional accounting companies seem to have a lot of problems with fraud. Just interesting. Yeah, just be conservative. I mean, apart from like all the advice that I would give about every specific topic, go in there, do your best, and don't sweat it. If they happen to be looking for someone like you, great, it's going to be a fit. If they happen to be looking for someone else or a different thing, it could be an idiotic thing that they're looking for. It could be an unreasonably impossible thing they're looking for. You have no control over that. Just go in and do the best you can. And if it's going to work out, it's going to work out. If it doesn't work out, don't sweat it, okay? Don't take it to mean anything negative about you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Okay, just do your best and look up the company ahead of time. That's very important. Okay, so hopefully you know all about KPMG, but if you don't, do a little bit of research. Try and do a search for KPMG in your city or your region. How do they dress? You know, like, are there photos of the people who actually work at KPMG in your area? You know, stuff like that. That helps. And then you try and look like them as much as possible, which shouldn't be that hard because they're accountants, so they should have no personality. I'm just joking. I always have to get my digs in for accountants. But anyway, forget this. I'm going to edit this out. You know how I say that? I'm going to edit this out, and they never do. Zohair says, much appreciated. No problem. No problem, Mr. Todd. I understand. Grant Snelling says, Bill, I have a first-round interview with a recruiter for a role as a delivery manager on Friday. Any tips for the first round? Nothing specific to a first round or a delivery manager. First round interviews are elimination interviews. They look for obvious things to eliminate you as a sort of sudden death thing. So they're going to ask you about salary. They're going to ask you about, you know, all the cliched questions. A question about the future. Where do you want to be in 5 years? A question about the past. Why did you leave your last job? They're going to ask you about your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, they may express these. They may articulate these in different forms. Okay, so they might not sit there and say, what are your weaknesses? But you can bet that they're going to be asking questions to try and get at those. So make sure that you have, you know, you understand how to answer the typical job interview questions. And then the company that you're interviewing for, like I said a moment ago, make sure you do some research on them, okay? Go in there knowing about them, you know, how they work. If they have like a, you know, like whatever they have, a warehouse or whatever at your location, go in there knowing that if you possibly can, like do some basic research online. And, you know, if you do know the names of the individuals that are going to be at the meeting, if you do, okay, at the interview, look them up on LinkedIn, sort of try and keep it straight in your head who they are. Okay, so that if they're an engineer or a recruiter, you know who you're talking to and you can tailor your answers. Okay, apart from that, there's no special advice. Just go in there and do your best. Do as many mock interviews as you can before Friday, if you have the opportunity to do that. Grab a friend or family member and just do some pretend interviews. And if you do all of that, I mean, you're going to be more than prepared. Okay, so that's about it. Rob also says, Santa Trinita, when looking for career advancement opportunities, is it better to contact internal recruiters, attend industry events, or external recruiters for networking? In your experience, love your channel. Okay, Santa Trinita, there's an entire universe of job opportunities out there just waiting for you because you keep mentioning recruiters. The best way for career advancement is not to connect with recruiters. Okay? This is unintuitive for a lot of young people because intuitively you would think, okay, who knows more about hiring? Well, it'll be recruiters. Well, no, they don't. Recruiters don't actually know that much about that stuff. Recruiting is an entry-level job, and recruiters are swamped with people trying to ingratiate themselves to recruiters. What you need to do is you need to go to not recruiters, but hiring managers, okay? And more than that, people high up, high-level hiring managers, executives, those kinds of people, okay? Those are the gatekeepers for the really good jobs. If the vice president of marketing or the director of operations, someone like that, likes you, thinks you're awesome, thinks you'd work great at the company, you've got it made. No one's going to say no to them in their organization. That's how that stuff works. Okay? Now, to answer your question, okay, is it better to contact internal recruiters, industry events, or external recruiters for networking? I don't know. Those are all pretty bad. Industry events would probably be the best. Okay. If you're talking about trade shows or association meetings, association events, like when you say industry events, let's say you're in the plumbing industry, you would go to a plumbing association event. That's pretty useful. If you can go and talk to a few of the more important people there, okay? People that are high up in organizations that have the authority and the power to hire people, okay? You go up and, you know, if there's an opportunity to talk to them, ask them a lot of questions about things they enjoy talking about, the plumbing industry, and, you know, don't talk all about yourself. Let them talk about what they want to talk about. You ask them questions. You know, like where's this industry going? What's going to be the next big thing coming in the next 5 years? You know, something like that, right? That's something that they want to talk about, and you just let them go. And then you listen and you don't interrupt, you know, and maybe you add fuel to the fire by, you know, going like, yeah, you know, why would it do that? You know, stuff like that. You just egg them on. They will enjoy it. And, you know, if you have a business card or something like that, you give that to them. And then, you know, you go away, and then maybe 2 or 3 days later, you contact them because you got their business card. You say, hey, you know, I was thinking about what you said, and that's really interesting. And I just want you to know that if ever you guys are looking for somebody with these skills, because I have those, you know, I'd love to work with you guys. Just putting that out there if ever you need that. But it was great meeting you the other day. Have a great day. You know, something like that. I don't know. I'm just making this up off the top of my head, but that's far more useful than trying to contact recruiters. Okay. The Arab Kobe. Awesome. Says, hey, can you give advice on the best way to answer, give us a time you improved a process at work? Okay, well, by definition, first of all, that's a behavioral question. So the answer to that is going to be different for every person because you will have your own experience, right? Okay. But you're going to be thinking about a story from your past, okay? And the way you would express it is that thing that everybody always talks about, right? The STAR method, right? STAR, situation, task, action, result. Okay. So a template for that would be saying like, yes, I have improved many processes. For example, in my previous position, so I was working as, you know, this job title at this organization. That's the situation. And then I was given the job of having to schedule the hours and the shifts of 50 employees. I had to make the schedule for 50 employees, and I was inheriting the system that they gave me or whatever. And they were doing the schedule a certain way. It was very manual. It was very labor intensive, where you'd go and you'd talk to each individual, you know, face to face, one-on-one. Very, very inefficient. Okay. And what I did is so that's the task, right? Situation, task, action. What I did was I decided to put all of this into a calendar app on our networked computer system. And what I did was I contacted everyone by email. I had them put in their requests, and I did it all over the calendar app. It allowed you to see everything at once. It allowed you to get immediate feedback from all the individuals, much more efficient, accomplish the same task with less errors in half the time, much higher satisfaction among the employees, satisfied the requirements of my boss, and I was commended for doing that. You know, I don't know, something like that. So that's the result. So situation, task, action, result. Okay. But the exact story you tell is going to be particular to every person, obviously. Okay. And the way you would prepare for questions like this is you would do some preparation work where you think of some of your greatest accomplishments, okay, or stories where you overcame challenges of different kinds, and practice saying them in that format very quickly. I kind of stumbled over my words because I'm trying to make this up off the top of my head. But, you know, you'd practice telling that story in, say, 30 to 45 seconds. You know, nice little summary there. And You go into the job interview with these, say, 10 stories on the tip of your mind because you've practiced them. And then whatever question like this that they ask you, tell me about a time when you did this, you're going to be pulling out one of those stories and adapting it to the exact question that they asked. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Moses K. Hi, sir. I'm Moses from India. I love your ideas and your suggestions. Those helped me a lot, but I still need some suggestions. I'm a data science aspirant, not placing anywhere, not getting the calls. Okay. Okay. Well, you need to do job search, right? You could apply for posted jobs, or you could apply for hidden jobs. Posted jobs involves job applications. Usually you do some kind of internet search these days. Hidden jobs is basically networking, where you reach out to companies you'd like to work for that would employ someone like you, and you talk to not the recruiter, but the hiring manager, and you go as high as you possibly can in that organization. You start there. You don't start at the bottom and go up. You start at the top and go down. Okay? Preferably at the executive level. And this is a real shock to young people that, you do this. But a lot of young people do this and they're very successful. And I've taught this, and it's very simple. And I have free videos on my YouTube channel that talk about that. So check those out. Mohammed, can you evaluate my resume? Sorry, I don't provide that service. That's not my bag. But there's a lot of people who can. Okay, if you want to get your resume critiqued, there's many, pretty much almost all HR companies, right, provide a service like that. Okay, it's a paid service. Okay, if you're just starting out, you don't need to pay people for it. Like I just showed on with this business here, where we were going through resume examples, right? Okay, you can go and compare your resume, to a lot of examples on the internet, right? And I mean, you see so many examples, that should give you ideas of what to do. And you can just see by me scrolling through it that there's no one standard format for a resume. Certainly the formatting is highly variable, right? Okay. So that's what I would do first, especially if you're just starting out. But if you've done all of that and, you've put a lot of time into it and you're still not really going anywhere, and you still believe that it's your resume that's the problem and not your job search mentality, there are a lot of companies that will be able to help you with that. Amina. Hi, right now I am preparing for a job interview. It's so hard, actually. Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It can be very nerve-wracking. And if you find it unpleasant, you're not alone, okay? If you find it not super easy, quite challenging in the beginning, okay, you're not alone. It's usually not people's idea of fun. But the good news is that practice makes perfect. If you do a few interviews and you do a lot of practice interviews with a friend or a family member, you will get good at it quite quickly, okay? Nobody is just instantly good at something, and that includes job interviews. Nobody is just instantly good at job interviews. There are some extroverted people that are good at talking to people, and they might have a little bit of an advantage in that they're not as nervous, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at it, because a lot of times they advance a lot of information that they shouldn't, or they play into these sort of, intellectual traps that recruiters set by getting you to disclose things that you don't realize you're disclosing. It's actually bad. Okay. But just do some practice and you will see within a short amount of time that you will feel a lot more comfortable, and you will be a pro at it quite soon. Where was I here? Damien says, is it better to have a photo on a CV? I don't know. Traditionally, for conservative companies and stuff, that wouldn't be really much of a thing. However, that has changed. That is changing. And I think if I were to guess, and make a sort of blanket answer answering for all companies, I would say generally it's okay. As long as your photo doesn't take up half the first page or something, like just like a little thing in the corner, or at the top. Yeah, I think it's fine. That's just my opinion. But as I say, that's going to vary depending on what industry you're in, what part of the world you're in, what job you're applying for. So if you're not sure, like I said, err on the side of being conservative. Do it more traditional. And traditionally, you would not have a photo on your resume. So if you're in doubt, maybe don't do it. Okay? If you're sending out a ton of applications, try half of them with a photo and half of them without, right? If they're younger, hipper, more modern companies, I think a photo is perfectly fine. Titus. YYZ. YYZ. That's a song by Rush, isn't it? YYZ? Or they say YYZ if you're in America. A student here, no prior work experience. What are some advice to build a resume? Is it by going for many... What? Is it by going for many interns, how to get the relevant skills as well, especially when schools don't tailor to company? Sorry, Titus, you kind of lost me there. It's something about building a resume. Look, my advice is kind of what I've said twice already in this live stream. Look at a lot of examples on the internet. I go to bing.com and do an image search. That's what I found is good to see a lot of visual examples very quickly. Okay? And then just use that as a sort of guide, for what would be reasonable for you to do. Serge says, good morning. I've been a maintenance man for 5 years now, and I've been learning what? Quailies and Security Plus. Okay, Security Plus is a CompTIA thing. What are some tips you can give me about looking good to a recruiter? I have no experience. Sorry, you lost me. You said you got 5 years experience, but you have no experience? Like, are you going for a computer thing? Is that what that is? The Security Plus business? Well, listen, the general rule to look good for a recruiter, okay? Recruiters will give you a list of requirements, what they're looking for in a job, okay? So they're on the job posting, they will say what they're looking for. They're looking for 5 years experience in this. They're looking for this type of educational qualification or training. They're looking for these skills, like whatever. So they're saying that stuff, okay? So obviously, if you have a resume that essentially parrots that, repeats that to them right when they start reading it. Well, I've got 5 years experience in this. I've got this educational qualification. I've got these skills. It's like, okay. And they're thinking, check, 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 right? So that's the kind of thing you have to do to look good to a recruiter for the mechanical requirements. Now, on top of that, they're looking for a bunch of soft skills. Soft skills would be good communication skills, being reliable, having integrity, like doing what you say you're going to do. Like if you say, I'll send you a resume in 10 minutes, and then you don't send a resume, that looks bad. That shows there might be integrity issues or reliability issues. Okay. If you are super polite and pleasant to deal with, that would be good. Okay. Now, beyond that, when I was talking about communication skills, okay, Serge, if you are communicating in English in written form, okay, you would need to, and I'm not picking on you here. I mean, this is like a lot of people, but you would have to clean up your writing, because if what you just wrote to me is an example of how you would write to a recruiter, you're ignoring a lot of basic, grammar and, things. It makes it hard to understand what exactly precisely you're saying. So I would look at cleaning up that, okay? Just as a more mechanical tip. Okay. But yeah, being super polite, being really easy to deal with, being very easy to get a hold of. Those are all good qualities, okay, that recruiters generally appreciate. The Arab Kobe says, "You're the best. Thank you." Well, thank you very much, the Arab Kobe. That's very, very kind of you. Carol says something I don't understand. Awesome. That's a great start. Mohammed says, "Sure, I will. Much obliged." Okay. The Arab Kobe, the last one. Can you give advice on how to answer? Give us a time you and a coworker had a disagreement. How did you resolve it? Well, didn't I just do that? Somebody asked me something very similar to that at the beginning of the chat. Somebody asked me the question, like, what would you do to resolve a conflict with your coworker? This is essentially the same question. So if you go back in the live stream, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, I basically gave an extended answer on that. Right? Because a disagreement is a conflict. The short answer, what's the solution to a conflict? Communication. Okay, so you went and you had a discussion, you listened, you made them feel that you cared and you were trying to resolve it, and you took steps to resolve it based on what they said, and you came to an understanding, that kind of thing. Zohair, Mr. Todd, do you foresee opening a company nationwide? Sorry, Zohair, you got to rephrase that. I don't really fully understand what you're saying. Joanne, generally, how important is age when applying for a job? I'm a female in my early 60s. Well, it depends what job. If you're going for like a waitress type job or something that's very physically demanding, it'll probably be very important. If you're going for a lot of other jobs that don't require a lot of physical attractiveness or physical labor, then not important at all. It's highly dependent on what you're doing. Now, if you don't know, there's a specific job and you're wondering how important age is to that job, okay, what you can do, this may or may not be possible for that job, but if you can see the type of people that are working there in that role, and if they all range in age, that kind of indicates age is not super important. But if you look at a particular job and all the people in it at that location or something are all the same age, maybe they're all 60 years old or they're all 20 years old, that tends to suggest age is important, okay? And they're biased towards the age of their workers. But what we see it varying, and we see when age is important, you see some jobs where they only hire young people, you see some jobs where they only hire old people, and you see some jobs where they only hire middle-aged people. So it can go any way in terms of an age group. That's what we see. If that makes sense. Moses says, I'm applying online every day, 30 to 50 jobs through LinkedIn, Glassdoor. My resume is very good, but I'm not getting calls. Okay, do something other than applying for online jobs. Applying for online jobs is the worst way to get a job, okay? Of all the common things. It's the worst way, okay? One of the reasons for that is because it's so easy to do. Like you yourself just said, you're applying for 30 to 50 jobs a day like this. Imagine all the job seekers out there all applying for 30 to 50 jobs a day. Each job is getting hundreds of applicants. Okay? So statistically, you have less than 1% chance of getting the job, because like if 200 people apply for it, you have all things being equal, you already have a 0.5% chance of getting the job just right off the bat. And that's assuming that they're not reposting it. That's assuming that they don't have internal candidates also up for it. So look into networking. Networking is the most common way people get hired. Okay? It is not applying for internet jobs. When people are just starting out, young people or people that are just new to job search, the default thing that they do and that they see is responding to posted jobs on the internet. That's kind of the default thing that they see. However, it is not the way that most people get hired, nor is it the way that most good jobs get filled. Okay. So check out networking. Okay. Like step into the world of networking. The word networking means many, many different things. Okay. There's many different methods of doing networking. Okay. And it ranges from showing up physically at a company, cold and talking to the reception desk, all the way to sitting at home, getting on LinkedIn and Google Maps and contacting companies proactively, to going to industry events and job fairs and, things like this. Like there's so many things within networking. If you're an introvert or you're an extrovert, doesn't matter. You can tailor it to you. If you are applying for remote jobs or local jobs, you can tailor it to you. Okay? But you don't have to take my word on this. Do your own research. You will see that most people who get jobs, the way they got their job, the most common is networking. Okay, so I'm not saying, applying for online jobs is a waste of time. You can do that, but don't make it the only part of your job search campaign. Okay, there are many much more promising things that you can do than apply for online jobs. So look into that, okay? I have some free videos that go into more detail about it. There's many other resources for you on the internet. Step into that world, okay? You will not regret it. Excuse me. Oh, I've got to do a coughing fit, so just excuse me for one moment. Oh, that was harsh. Okay, Zohair says, meant opening a company or a group of companies in the USA. What, are you're going to do that? Or you're asking about it? Sure, yeah. I do. I'm trying to do 2 live streams a week that talk about side hustles, called Side Hustle Ideas. I do the live stream on Mondays and on Thursdays, and where we talk about that kind of thing. And I think it's really cool. So check that out if you're into that. The Arab Kobe says, thank you. Appreciate all your help. Have a great day. Yes, same to you, Arab Kobe. Best of luck. Joanne, it's in the tourist industry and management. I recently sold my business. Okay, so Joanne, you were, okay, you're the age question. Okay, well, if you're in your early 60s, I mean, I think you can, it would amaze me if you couldn't find anything in the tourist industry. Be like a booking agent or, whatever your business was, that kind of thing. You would think that you'd be able to get something. I don't think age would be much of a problem, but once again, it depends on the details. It depends on what precisely you're doing, what your skill sets are, and that kind of thing. Fancy Polka Dots says networking. Yes, networking all the way. This is the thing. Nobody talks about networking because a lot of people that talk about hiring are recruiters. Now, no offense to recruiters, okay? You get some bad ones. You get a lot of bad ones, actually, but you do get a few good ones. And, they're good at what they do, right? They have a very mechanical job. They're given a list of requirements for a job. A hiring manager comes to them in one form or another and says, find me some candidates that have all of these things. And their job is to go out and line up a few candidates that have all of those things, that are wanting, they're open to getting a new job, and present them to the hiring manager. They may do a certain amount of filtering depending on what level they're at. And then they present certainly at least a final lineup of candidates to the hiring manager. And they consult. Some recruiters If they're a higher level, they can consult on certain things. They might do all kinds of metrics and psychometrics and, all that kind of stuff. But that's a very specific thing within the world of employment. Okay. Not all jobs go through recruiters. Most jobs don't. Most jobs are filled before they even get to recruiter, because it costs a lot of money to hire recruiters to do all this work for you. So yeah, that's where networking is at. Do you feel LinkedIn has just gotten too saturated these days, Mr. Todd? It has. There is more fluff on there. Like, Microsoft bought LinkedIn a few years ago. They did their absolute best to try and turn it into Facebook. So you get a lot of fluff and a lot of crap in there. But I mean, no, you can still use it for its intended purpose, which is contacting people. But you got to do it properly. Just blasting out a bunch of spam gets you absolutely nowhere. It's actually worse than useless, because not only do you not get anywhere with people you would want to take an interest in you, but you also get blacklisted for spamming everybody. So if you use it properly, it's still very, very useful. Sergey says, sorry, I should have been more specific. I have no experience in the security plus IT industry. I only know how to do maintenance. But thank you for the advice. Okay. Well, now I'm understanding a little bit more. So basically, you're wanting to change careers. Okay. Well, here's a prime example. This is the classic example of why you don't go through recruiters for certain things, especially if you are changing careers. It's extremely difficult to get hired through a recruiter, because, like I said earlier, what is a recruiter doing? Their job is to find candidates that have this, right? Now, usually one of those things will be a certain amount of experience, right? So if they're posting a job for, I don't know, some IT job, systems admin, okay, basic systems admin stuff for a large IT department in a large enterprise. One of the requirements, apart from some of the technical skills, is probably going to be at least 2 years experience in doing this job before, right? Now, if you're changing careers, you've been in maintenance of heavy equipment or something for years, okay? You're changing careers to IT. So although you've got some training, you have no experience working in IT. So already you're not qualified. You don't meet the requirements of that job, right? So if you went to a recruiter, they would look at your resume and they'd say, I don't see any IT experience in here, so sorry, we've decided to go with somebody else. Okay? Now, if that's how everyone tried to do this, no one would be able to change careers, right? But a lot of people do change careers. The way they do it is they don't go to recruiters, they go to a hiring manager. Okay? You meet the hiring manager, you ask them some questions, you have a conversation. If they come away with the impression like, hey, you're a very capable person, I get along with you, we seem to click, there's no issues with communication skills or professionalism or anything like that, I know you've got a lot of abilities, you've got a lot of technical skills. Now, you haven't worked in IT, but you have taken some training. You seem to be very enthusiastic about the industry. You seem to know a lot about it. I think, you would be able to cut this entry-level IT job that we're posting. There's many people that would be qualified for it. You have an advantage in that I've just met you. I think you're awesome. I would love to work with you. I think you have the right attitude. I think you've got all the soft skills. So you know what? Let's give you a chance. That's how people change careers. That's how it works. You don't send your resume to a recruiter who's never met you that goes, I don't see any IT experience on here, and they just eliminate you. Okay? You go around the recruiters, around those mechanical requirements. The reason those mechanical requirements are there are because the hiring manager wrote them. The recruiter said, okay, you want me to hire for this job? What are the requirements I should be looking for? And the hiring manager goes, oh, I haven't thought about this before. Let's see. Well, I don't know. Previous IT experience would be good, I guess, say 2 years. They should have this qualification. That's important. They should know Security Plus if they're going to be doing basic security auditing for us, for user accounts or something. Okay, so like they're just like writing this. I mean, it's not set in stone. And they often make exceptions to it if they like the person. I know this firsthand from being on both sides of it. A lot of you guys probably know this too intuitively. You may have had experience with this. So that's how you change careers. That's how you go from one thing to another thing that you don't have any experience in, but they hire you, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But Sergey, I mean, like watch a few videos or look at some internet resources on changing careers and, and learn about that stuff because that's usually how it goes. That was Sergey. So Zohair says, no meant if you're going to open some. Oh, if I'm going to open some. No, I'm not opening companies across the US. I was a CEO many years ago and I'm never going back. That's why I label myself as a former CEO because I'm never going to be a CEO again. That was the most stressful and unpleasant experience of my life. And you know what? Life is too short to do stuff that requires that of you. Sebastian K says, hi, Bob. Okay, that's a good start. Thanks again for your great help and support. Sometimes we only need to wait and to continue. In the end, all will be good. Yes, sometimes it requires a bit of perseverance and patience, but don't be afraid to experiment. If you've tried something and you've been on that path for a long time and it isn't going anywhere fast, don't be afraid to try new things in your job search campaign. Okay, there are many ways to get a job. There are many things you can do to find one. Okay, so don't just do one thing forever, especially if it's not really showing a lot of promise. Okay, so don't be afraid to add other things. Look at the different methods of getting a job. On my channel, like a couple of years ago, I did these long sort of live streams, and each one was on a different method of getting a job. So I don't know if it's possible to go back and check those out. Okay. Fancy Polka Dots says, are you or were you in the IT industry? If you're talking to me, I was affiliated with the IT industry like 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. I mean, it's completely changed now, completely. So, everything I know about that industry and how it worked, that's all completely outdated. Joanne says, this is wonderful. I love your show. So very helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying so, Joanne. It's comments like that make me keep doing this. Grand Intellect says, what did you study? What did I study in college? Well, I did electrical engineering and I have an MBA and I've got a bunch of other stuff, but yeah. Technical person. Technical introverted person. Sebastian K. Bill, sorry, mixed up your name. Shame on me. That's also a good example. Don't worry about it. Sometimes everybody makes a mistake. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've made about 1 billion, so I'm not judging you. Acknowledge it, say sorry, and move on. Yes. I mean, try and take care as much as you can, but, one of the things that I do by doing these live is I put my foot in my mouth and people ask me questions that stumps me sometimes. So, I am not knowing the answer for everyone to see. So it happens. Titus says, nope, I'm a student. Haven't went for internships as well. Yeah, same thing for internships. Like everything I said about getting a job, it applies for internships. Okay. networking is very useful for stuff like that. You're welcome, Zohair. Okay, Joanne says, what think of Indeed? Okay. What do you think of Indeed? There are many job fairs in the area. Are they good to attend? Are they looking for hundreds of positions to fill? I don't know. I mean, I can't answer that for you for what job fairs you're talking about. I mean, job fairs are usually for people like young professionals, people right out of school, right out of college. You know, I mean, that's the most common thing, but there are many others. What's the website? There's a website where they, like, if you want to find out what events are happening in your city or your region, like around you, you know, if you just give me a second here, I will just see if I can find the name of that website. Is it Event Star? That's not the website, is it? No. Anyway, maybe I'll see if I can find the name for the next time. But there's like a website that, you know, that's what it does. It sort of lists events around you. So if it knows your geographic location, it can show you, like, here are the events that are going on, and you can refine it by, you know, different areas. Like, you could say parties, or you could say business. And so for business, they'll, you know, usually have like the job fairs and job events and things like that. So maybe do a Google search and see if you can find what the name of the website is. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, you know, if it's a school-related job fair, that's good for students coming out of school. It's good to get your first career job, because traditionally, the people that would attend those would be large enterprise, like big employers that hire tons of people at a time. They're not particularly good jobs, but they're like getting your foot in the door, like entry level career type jobs, you know, usually with big recognizable companies. So when you put it on your resume, people go, oh, you know, you worked for this company, because they've all heard of it, right? Companies, you know, they do what's in their self-interest. So they go there because they're looking for fresh meat, basically. They're looking for young people that will work for relatively cheap. But they're looking for qualified people. So what better way than to go right to the school, and then you talk to all the students. If people are graduating with this qualification, then they go right to the source, you know, and hire people right out of school. So they're good for stuff like that. You know, but if that's not your situation, you're not coming right out of school, like, I would look at industry events. Okay. I would look at association events. So I used the example of plumbing before, like the plumbing industry. I mean, maybe you work in, I don't know, entertainment, and there's like some kind of entertainment trade show, the association of, I don't know, film producers, or, you know, audio visual people, or something like that. And, you know, you go there, and it will be a collection of, you know, people looking for a job that have those skills. It'll be a collection of the companies that hire them. It'll be a collection of the people that have products or services that serve those companies. And it will be a collection of customers who hire those companies to do work for them. Okay. So it'll be everybody all together, like that whole industry. And what you can do is you can go and you can look at the different booths, and you can talk to the different people and get a bunch of business cards, get your own business card printed up. I mean, these days it is so cheap to do it. I know it feels like, you know, 19th century kind of way of doing things, but it is very useful. You know, for like the equivalent of $20, you could print, like, I don't know, 1,000 business cards. They just say your name, they say your title, like your tagline, okay? And then your contact information. So if you are a new graduate, let's say you have a degree in film production or something, okay? So you would say, you know, I don't know, fully qualified film production associate or something. That would be your tagline. So any company that would be looking to hire someone with those skills, or that you could do any work for them, they get your card and you get theirs, and then you follow up with those. So the next day or a couple of days after, you go through all these business cards you collected and you contact them and you say, hey, it was great talking to you at that event. I learned a lot about your organization. I understand that you do this kind of thing. I think that's absolutely fascinating. If ever you're looking for, a film production associate, please let me know, because I would love to work with your company. That's all. Thanks and have a great day. You can do that by phone. You can do that, which would matter, like it would carry some weight. You could also do that by email or by DM or whatever. That would carry slightly less weight, but it would still be good. And like I started off this live stream talking about that word serendipity, if they just happen to be looking to hire people that are like film production associates, okay? They met a few people at the event, and they got a few business cards, but you just landed right in their lap. Okay, here you are right in front of them saying, look, I have what you need and I'd love to work for you. And the fact that I'm contacting you signals that, I've got initiative, I'm passionate about doing this, I'm serious about doing this, and I'm professional. And then if what you say to them or what you communicate to them is professional, it's appropriate, they read it or they hear you and they think, I would enjoy dealing with that person. What more do you need? It's perfect. It makes it super easy for them. Okay. A lot of people will shy away from this, especially young people, because they'll go, ooh, I don't want to talk to anyone on the phone. Well, you don't have to do it on the phone. You could do it over DM. You could do it over email or some other form of written communication. That's better than nothing. That does have an effect. I built a consulting business with CEOs and owners of businesses like doing this. It's really not that hard. And I'm an introvert. I'm a technical introvert. So, this is well within people's reach. Most people are unaware of it. And you've never been taught this kind of thing in school. I could go on my school rant, like I often do, and say, like, young people, they're taught through the educational system to wait to be given permission, to ask for permission first, to always follow the crowd, never, do anything, go out on a limb and go against the grain. They don't reward you for stuff like that. Well, this is the real world now, and that's what actually gets you ahead a lot of times. You're the one that has to apply. You're the one that has to reach out. And the ones who do, you get rewarded for that. So don't be afraid. Okay, if this is all new to you, don't be intimidated by it. It's actually really simple. And just do your research on it. Okay, where was I here? What do you think of Indeed? They're all right, I guess. They're a job aggregator. So they take all the jobs that are posted on company websites and other sites, and they display them all in one place. And I haven't dealt with Indeed for a long time, but back in the day, like maybe 10 years ago, there was good stuff on there, there was bad stuff on there, I don't know whether it's changed. But once again, I would not make that the cornerstone of any job search campaign. You could check it out, but there's a lot better methods of finding a job than just scanning positions on Indeed. Carlos says, hello, Bill. Thank you for the stream. Could you please comment on tips on how to sell yourself when applying to a foreign country? How to overcome local candidates who have advantage by living there? Okay, well, I can't, I'm not like a real consummate expert on that, but what I can tell you is that number one thing that's very important is having local experience. So what a lot of immigrants will do is they will get into a country, they will get a job just so they can get a reference. There's somebody that maybe your boss, I don't know, you like not to play on stereotypes or anything, but just some low level jobs. You worked as a cleaning person, or you drove a taxi or something, it's really like just manual kind of late. They need a warm body in there. And but the great thing is that you only have to do that for a very short amount of time. And what you do is you get a reference, you get local experience. And so you can say, look, here is the contact information for my current boss or my previous boss. Okay, so they worked with me for a few months or whatever, and they can vouch for me. And here's even a letter of recommendation they've written, right? That's very important. What my personal opinion is, the next thing is being able to communicate effectively in the host country's language. So, if you have an accent, that's fine. But if you need to be able to communicate well, because that can be a real practical issue. So if you don't quite have that down as well as you could have, improving that would have an impact. Okay. Now, I'm not an expert on that. That's not my core competency. There's a lot of resources online where people that are experts on that, you can sort of get from them much more detail of how to do this stuff. Okay. So I'd recommend that. You're absolutely welcome, Titus. Fancy polka dots. There's a great need for your expertise. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for saying so. Joanne, I am from Niagara Falls, Canada. Awesome. Well, I'm from Winnipeg. I am applying to be a recruiter. How to go about doing that before job fairs? You're applying to be a recruiter. Well, the great thing about, first of all, okay, here's the immediate thoughts I had on that. Number one, your communication skills, interpersonal skills, and how pleasant you are to deal with. That's going to be a big deal. There are a lot of companies out there that they don't really care about professionalism. They would choose efficiency over professionalism any day. And that's actually what we see a lot of how recruiters behave. Recruiters are not well liked among job seekers because, they ghost people. They say they don't really treat people very well, and certainly not professionally. And that's a reflection of the attitude of a lot of the companies that employ them. They don't care about that stuff. That's not really important to them. But there are some places that do care about that. Okay, if you want to be an executive recruiter, a true executive recruiter, not like all the executive recruiters, every recruiting company says they're an executive recruiter when they aren't. We all know this. Only very few are true executive recruiters. They care about that stuff. They care about people who know how to treat people and communicate professionally and politely. So if that's important to you and that's your ambition, don't be fooled by people in that industry that don't place importance on that. Okay? I don't know if I would necessarily advance that in interviews to a company that isn't an executive recruiter. But, the second thing is that, I think being a recruiter is probably among the jobs that's the easiest to be self-employed in. Okay? Because in order to be a recruiter, what do you need? You need a phone, you need a computer, and you need a place to interview people. Now, the place to interview people could be the local coffee shop. You could go to the local Starbucks. There's your place to interview people. You could go to the local Chamber of Commerce. They'll give you a conference room. There's your place to interview people. So if you don't get hired within a short amount of time, I would start freelancing and just putting your name out there. It's like, look, I'm a recruiter. You need recruiting services? I'll work for you for cheap. Okay. Just so you can have some experience under your belt, maybe even make a little money, but you have some experience under your belt. You've done something. And, especially if you're just coming out of school and you don't have a lot of experience, that will really help. Okay. You could start doing that job tomorrow, really. So those are the immediate thoughts I had when I just read your question there. Okay. And cheers to a fellow Canadian. Zohar says, meant giving. Zohar. Thanks for a really good question. Yeah, no problem. Joanne, thank you for answering my questions. My pleasure. Carlos, thank you for the answer. I'll research more because I haven't found much about the topic. Thank you. Okay. Oh yeah, that was the foreign country. Well, I know there's I came across a YouTube channel just by accident, a few days ago. It exists to talk entirely about how to get a job in a certain country. Like if you're coming from anywhere in the world and you want to move there, that's the only thing they do videos on. So keep looking, because I know there's some great resources out there. A lot of people talk about that, like immigration type, how to get a job in a host country kind of thing. There are some stuff out there, so keep looking. Okay, I have to wrap this up very soon. So if there's any last questions, just ask them, because in about a minute, I've got to sign off. I want to thank everybody that's here, by the way. There's 39 of you guys here, so thank you for being here. And I've gotten some pretty intelligent questions, so that's really good to see. Just a reminder, while I'm waiting for anything else, I'm doing a live stream tomorrow. I will be here with another installment of side hustle ideas. So if you are interested in doing a side hustle, maybe you're between jobs, or maybe you're employed, you have a day job, but you would like to add to your income. You would also like to get more security in the sense that you have money coming in from more than one source. So that gives you some failover and some flexibility. Check out that live stream. It's a relatively new thing I'm doing. See, my core competency is improving businesses and helping businesses make more money through things like efficiency and proper marketing and solving internal issues and things like this. And so I'm trying to bring some of that to the discussion. And a lot of people these days are doing side hustles, sort of a startup business on the side, which I think is great, because I've said this many times, but if people with jobs, especially jobs that they're not really into, that don't pay a ton, if they knew how easy and rewarding it is to be in business for yourself, or it can be, especially in this day and age, they would never work for an employer ever again. They would just work for themselves. And I mean, I'm living proof of this. The last job I had was 2014, something like that, like working for somebody. I've done freelance stuff. I've done teaching. I've done consulting, all that kind of stuff ever since. There's no going back, and this YouTube channel is kind of an extension of that. It's like, how much does it cost to start a YouTube channel? Not very much. Nothing really, assuming you have an internet connection. You're just risking your time. So there's a lot of stuff like that. So if that's interesting to you, check out my live streams on Monday and Thursday, where we talk about side hustles, called Side Hustle Ideas. If you do want to go deeper, if you've been doing a job search for a long time and it just hasn't gone anywhere, and you want to just learn from beginning to end, what should I do from start to finish? Let's go through everything. I do have this course, right? Get Hired course. Check that out. Okay. And if you are interested in learning business, maybe it's in connection with the whole side hustle thing, or you want to be in business for yourself, or you just want to know how to make money. I have also the $100 MBA course. And just as a final reminder, if you haven't checked out my video for this week, this is my video for this week. How do you handle stress? Check that out. It's actually a remake. It's the first remake video I've done, because I wasn't really happy with the one that I had that was from like 3 years ago. So check that out. Okay. Some final questions here. GV Log says, how do I move to a manager role without past formal managerial experience, Bill? Okay. Management roles generally, especially good management roles, are about trust. They have to trust that you know what you're doing, because in a management role, generally, now you're making decisions. You're making decisions about people. You're making decisions about money. You're making decisions about assets. You're making decisions about operations. So they have to trust you. So the best way for someone to trust you is for them to have worked with you in some capacity. Okay? You can't really tell from someone's resume if they're trustworthy. I mean, maybe their judgment is just out to lunch. They could have done Harvard Law. You know what I'm saying? They could have like done the best education in the world, but still have bad judgment. You know what I mean? We see that all the time. Or you could have really fancy credentials on your resume, but when you meet someone, you're very, very off-putting. Their immediate reaction is, God, I do not want to work with that person. And if I never see them again, I'll be happy. So the best way to have someone believe that you would be a good manager, even though you've never been a manager before, would be to have them work with you. Okay. So once again, networking is good. So, if you have any previous bosses, if you have any current bosses, if you have any coworkers or past coworkers that have left that are now in positions where they're hiring or they're looking for a manager and they can put in a good word for you, something like that, that's the first step. Second step would be to do networking where you go out and meet people. Somebody was asking about job fairs, okay, or industry events. And I was saying, well, okay, if you're a student just coming out of school, that's one thing. But if you go to an industry event where you're in the same room with the CEOs of companies in your area, general managers, operational managers, managers of, a branch office of whatever, these are people that could conceivably hire a manager, okay, a functional manager, low-level manager, whatever. And if they've met you and, you're awesome to deal with, they like you on a personal level, they would enjoy working with you, that's the impression you've made. You've also demonstrated that you're passionate about this industry and this type of work because you're there and you're engaged in it voluntarily. That stuff counts a lot too. Okay? Having great references also is important. Okay? Having previous bosses or people that worked with you that say, yeah, this person's great. And, we trusted them with this and they delivered the goods and, stuff like that. Okay. So it's kind of that type of thing. You may have, you've probably already figured this out. Being able to manage something, who gets those jobs? Is it people that go to school to learn how to manage something? Not really necessarily. It doesn't really have too much bearing on it. It's more, you get people that have no formal training in how to manage anything that are put in charge of stuff. The reason is because they've earned somebody's trust. Maybe falsely, but the most common example is when you just have seniority. You've been at a place for 30 years, so you end up running it, right? You could still be an idiot. You could still have no natural talent for managing things or coordinating things or anything. You maybe don't have any financial skills. You don't have any language or communication skills, but you end up running the place simply because you've been there for 35 years, right? It's because you've earned people's trust, right? 35 years without being caught stealing, 35 years without getting into an altercation with your boss, a serious one. Things like that. That all kind of contributes to that. And unfortunately, it's less about technical skills than it is about that kind of stuff. So that's something to just keep in mind if you're looking for those types of opportunities. Hopefully that makes sense. And last thing here, Zohair says, have an awesome day, sir. You too, Zohair. Thank you for everyone for being here. You guys are awesome. I will be back tomorrow with another live stream on side hustle ideas, and I will be back next week, same time, same day, for another episode of How to Get Hired, where you can ask your questions. Thanks so much, and have yourself a great day.